My name is Ella Morgan. I'm 24 years old. I work at Rosewood Public Library, a quiet little place nestled between a florist's shop and an old-fashioned bakery on Pine Street. It smells like cinnamon, old paper, and stories that never got the endings they deserved. Every morning, I unlock the wooden doors with a familiar click. The light filters through tall windows, brushing the shelves in golden ribbons. It's the kind of place where the world slows down, where time doesn't hurry, and hearts feel safe. It's the only place I've ever truly belonged. And every Tuesday at 3 p.m., he walks in. Liam Carter. He's 26, a literature student from the nearby university. And the first time I saw him, I dropped a whole stack of books. It wasn't just because he was good-looking, though, let's be honest, he really is. Tall, a little scruffy in that careless way that somehow works for some people, with deep-set eyes that always seem to be lost in thought. But it wasn't his looks that got me. It was the way he read. He didn't just skim pages. He lived in them. He'd pick up a poetry book, sink into one of the armchairs near the back window, and disappear into a world that only he could see. Sometimes, he'd mouth the words to himself. Sometimes he'd smile, just slightly, as if a particular line had reached into him and tugged at something deep. That first Tuesday, he borrowed a roomy anthology. He smiled at me, just briefly, and said, "You have a beautiful collection here." I remember stuttering something unintelligible like, thanks, and then nearly tripping over the return bin as he walked away. It's been 5 months since then. 5 months of silent glances, awkward smiles, and hearts that beat a little too loudly. But I've never told him how I feel. Because I have a secret crush. And secrets are the only things I've ever really been good at keeping. The problem with having a crush on someone who doesn't know you is that your heart becomes an expert at collecting tiny moments, crumbs, really, and turning them into something that feels like hope. Like the time Liam asked me where the Pablo Neruda section was and smiled when I said, "Follow me." Or the time he brought back a book and said, "That poem on page 40? It reminded me of rainy afternoons and cinnamon tea. I spent 2 hours that night rereading page 40 and wondering if he meant me. He never stays long, usually an hour. But he's consistent. Tuesdays, always. Like clockwork. So I time my schedule around him. I shelve books when he's browsing. I clean the counter when he checks out. I live in the spaces between his words, pretending they're mine. I know how ridiculous it sounds. I do. I mean, we've barely spoken beyond pleasantries. I don't even know if he's single. For all I know, he could have a girlfriend who waits for him in some coffee shop with almond milk lattes and better conversation skills. But still, I wonder. Still, I hope. Still, I dream in poetry. You can learn a lot about someone without ever truly knowing them. Like how Liam always wears sweaters, even in late spring, with the sleeves pushed up to his elbows. Or how he runs his fingers through his hair when he's concentrating, especially while reading. I know he prefers poetry to fiction. I know he bites his bottom lip when he's trying not to smile. I know he drinks iced black coffee with a splash of oat milk. He once brought it into the library in a cup that left a faint ring on the poetry shelf. I know he hums when he reads. Not full songs, just little murmurs, notes caught between thoughts. And I know he's gentle. You can tell a lot about a person by the way they treat silence. Some people rush to fill it. Others sit with it, like it's a friend. Liam does the latter. He lets moments breathe. He never speaks too loudly, never acts like the world owes him space. Maybe that's why I like him so much. Or maybe it's just that, when he's near, I feel less invisible. Which is ironic, really. Because I've never felt more invisible than I do around him. It happened on a Thursday. Rain tapped the windows softly, and the library was quieter than usual. I was shelving returns in the poetry section when I found it, a small, leather-bound notebook wedged between 2 volumes of Sylvia Plath. It wasn't labeled. It wasn't stamped. It wasn't ours. Curious, I opened it. The first page held a pressed daisy and a line in neat handwriting. I write to remember the things I'm too afraid to say. My stomach dropped. The next few pages were filled with poems. Personal ones. Honest. Some messy, some unfinished. Some so vulnerable they made my throat tighten. They were beautiful. And heartbreakingly sad. I turned the page, and my breath caught. There, on the third spread, was a sketch. A girl sitting behind a counter. Cardigan. Bun. Glasses. A book in her lap. Me. It was me. My hands trembled as I flipped through more pages, trying to understand. There were mentions of cinnamon scent, quiet eyes, and Tuesday afternoons. He'd written about me. Liam. It had to be him. I clutched the notebook to my chest, heart pounding. I'd stumbled into his secret. And now I didn't know what to do. He came back the next Tuesday. Right on time. But he looked different, more distracted. His eyes searched the room before they even found me. I think I left something here, he said as he approached the desk. A notebook. Small. Leather. Probably in the poetry section. I nodded and reached beneath the counter. I'd kept it safe all weekend. I'd read some more, just a few pages, nothing invasive. But enough to confirm what I feared and hoped. He liked me. He saw me. And somehow that terrified me more than anything else. I found it, I said quietly, handing it over. His fingers brushed mine. Warm. Nervous. Thank you, he said, letting out a breath. That would have been hard to lose. Our eyes met. And for the first time, I didn't look away. Did you read it? He asked. I hesitated. Yes. His lips parted. He looked down, then back at me. Then you know. My voice was barely a whisper. Know what? He opened the notebook and flipped to a page near the back. Then he turned it around and held it out. There's a girl at the library. She always wears cardigans and smells like cinnamon. I don't know her name, but I think about her every Tuesday. I hope one day I find the courage to tell her she's beautiful. My heart stopped. It's me, I said, breathless. I know, he replied. We went to a small cafe down the street. It felt surreal, sitting across from Liam, no longer a silent crush but a person with eyes locked on mine. He stirred his coffee absent-mindedly. I was going to tear that page out. The one about you. I got scared. I smiled. I'm glad you didn't. He tilted his head. You read my words and still wanted to meet me here? I reached across the table and touched the edge of his sleeve. I liked your words. I liked you, before I even knew they were yours. He looked stunned. You did? We started sharing poems. He'd leave a folded page from his notebook by the return bin. I'd leave a favorite line from Dickinson or Mary Oliver tucked inside his borrowed books. It was silly. Sweet. Sacred. We never called them love notes, but they were. Then one evening, just before closing, I found him still sitting by the poetry shelf. The lights were low, and everyone else had gone. He looked up as I approached. You always stay so late? I asked. Only when I'm hoping you'll notice. I laughed, cheeks warm. I've always noticed. His gaze held mine. Ella, he said softly, can I kiss you? I didn't answer. I just stepped closer and nodded. And then he kissed me. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't a movie kiss or a desperate one. It was simple. Soft. True. And in that moment, the world outside the library stopped turning. falling in love is both beautiful and terrifying. I found myself worrying about all the things that could go wrong. What if he changed his mind? What if this was temporary? What if I messed it up? Liam noticed. One Sunday afternoon, while we sat on a park bench reading to each other, he closed his book mid-sentence. "You're somewhere else," he said gently. I blinked. "Sorry. I'm just scared." I nodded. "Me too," he said. "But I'd rather be scared with you than brave alone." I looked at him, really looked. There were so many things I didn't know about him still. His past. His fears. His hidden parts. And I wanted to know them all. So I told him about my loneliness. My tendency to shrink away from things I want. My fear of being seen and then left behind. He didn't interrupt. Just reached for my hand and held it like it was something fragile and precious. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For trusting me." In that moment, I realized something. Love isn't built in fireworks. It's built in quiet honesty. Love also isn't linear. It was a Friday night. Liam and I had plans to go to a poetry reading at the university. I wore a navy dress I'd saved for something special. He never showed. I waited outside for an hour. No message. No call. I went home, heart sinking. When I finally heard from him the next morning, it was a text. "I'm sorry. I can't talk right now. Please don't hate me." I didn't understand. Days passed. No explanation. No answers. My mind spiraled. Was it me? Did he regret everything? Was it all just a game? I cried more than I'd like to admit. Then, a week later, he showed up at the library. Pale. Eyes tired. "I didn't want you to see me like that," he said. I didn't speak. I just waited. "My dad, he had a heart attack last Friday." I rushed to the hospital. I didn't think straight. I shut everyone out. My chest tightened. "Liam. I'm not good at asking for help," he whispered. "But I should have told you. I should have trusted you." I stepped forward and wrapped my arms around him. "It's okay," I whispered. "I'm here now." And I meant it. After that, our love deepened. Not in dramatic ways, but in real ones. He met my parents. My mom adored him. My dad gave him a long look and then offered him his best coffee mug. We went to used bookstores together, sometimes spending hours reading side by side without speaking. He brought me daisies on random Tuesdays. I started writing poems, only for him. We argued once about a line in a Neruda poem. He liked the mystery. I liked the clarity. We laughed about it later in bed. He started calling me his librarian. I called him my poet. Some nights, we'd lie on the grass and look up at the stars, whispering all the dreams we used to be too afraid to say aloud. And in all of it, I kept thinking, this started with a secret. A secret crush. A Tuesday smile. A notebook. One evening, while reorganizing my old journals, I found a letter I wrote before we ever spoke. A letter to Liam. The one I never intended to show him. I almost threw it away. But instead, I slipped it into his notebook the next morning. Later that day, he sent me a photo of the letter, folded and tear-stained. "Ella." I read it 3 times. "I'll keep it forever." That night, he read the letter aloud to me. It wasn't perfect. My handwriting was shaky, my words awkward. But they were real. And when he finished, he leaned close and whispered, "You're the bravest person I know." Funny how love makes you brave in ways you never expected. It's been 1 year since Liam walked into the library that first Tuesday. We still go there together. He writes while I shelve. I make coffee while he reads aloud. Our lives are quiet. Beautifully so. He's still the boy with the notebook. I'm still the girl with the cardigan and cinnamon scent. But now we're more. Now we're pages in the same story. Last week, he handed me a new notebook. Inside was a single line on the first page. To Ella Morgan, my first poem, my last page, my always. I looked up, and he was holding a ring. Not a big one. Simple. Elegant. But his hand was shaking. Will you keep writing this story with me? He asked. I cried. Then I said yes. And now, every Tuesday at 3 p.m., he doesn't just walk in the library. He walks into my life, again and again. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon.